Good morning, everybody. Dokai Georgesen, our head teacher, is our speaker this morning. And he started practicing in 1974 with Katagiri Roshi, who ordained him in 1984 and transmitted him in 1989. He is the guiding teacher here at Hokyoji since 2003. So take it away, Dokai.
Okay, you're muted.
Okay, thank you for that, Jim. Maybe it would have been a better talk if I just stayed muted. Anyway, we'll see about that. Okay. Well, we just finished a 7-day session here at Hokyoji just yesterday. And when signing up for these talks, I thought I'll sign up for the one after session because usually that's a pretty easy time for me to talk. After sitting for 7 days, it's not hard for me to generate something to talk about. I doubt that I'm ever going to do that again. It's been a little tough for me to come up with something today. So I just decided I'm going to take it a little easy on myself today and not delve into Dogen and all that stuff. So I'm going to talk about a teacher who's quite well known in North America. Name is Pema Chöldren, and I've never actually talked from anything that she's written before. But I thought, actually, this started a few weeks ago when I was having a kind of a personal discussion with my best buddy who's really kind of running into a lot of obstacles in his life. We're almost exactly the same age, a month apart. And basically said, I don't think things are working out for me too well. Like he's he's a film director. So, you got to get things done as a film director and you got to direct. And he's been quite good at that, except when his business kind of stopped. So in any event, he was basically starts kind of doing a different kind of path of discovery. And he brought up to me, he said, do you know the name Pema Chöldren? And I said, well, yeah, the name, I'm quite familiar with that name. And he said, someone recommended that I read some of her material. And and so what I've decided to do, his birthday is in a week, because mine was just a month ago, or a little bit, 3 weeks ago, something like that. So I'm going to send him order a book, like this one, When Everything Falls Apart, for his birthday present. And we'll see if he can appreciate it. He's quite a critical reader, he reads a lot and very well read. So we'll see if he can appreciate kind of a more simple style of literature. When I brought this up twice now, but when Rushin went out on a limb last a couple on his last talk, and mentioned some critique of Thich Nhat Hanh. I thought, I've never given a Thich Nhat Hanh book to my best buddy. He would not like the way Thich Nhat Hanh writes. Too many flowers, skies, that kind of thing, and clouds, water. In any event, so I did pick up this, I picked out this book, When Things Fall Apart, because I believe there's a certain way in which some of us are feeling that. And here's another thing I haven't done too much of, is speak to kind of the situation we're in these days in the United States of America and our leadership. So I can't imagine some of us aren't quite disturbed by what's happening. In fact, I'm going to share a little anecdote of what happened to me during this session, and it's another reason why I picked out these passages to talk about today. I was scheduled, I was scheduled to give a talk Wednesday morning in this session. We had three leaders, so we alternate, and we give 6 Dharma talks, and we each give 2. And one of mine was on Wednesday. And Tuesday evening, I just went through a really, really difficult, some very difficult periods of Zazen. And of course, my feeling, my sense is, I gotta give a Dharma talk tomorrow. It's like, I am not doing very well right now. And then subsequently, after I thought about that quite a bit, I thought, and I got to give one on Sunday. so I was thinking ahead a little bit. Not only that, I got to give another one on Sunday. So, and what happened to me, the reason it was difficult is because I read something, which I know, we're supposed to kind of use discrimination on how much we read things during the session. But it was the news, and something very disturbing in the news affected me. And it was about former generals working under our current president, who became very scared of him and what he was going to do after the election if he didn't win. And of course, they're no longer part of his advisory staff, of course. But the one thing they said that kind of set me off is they were afraid he was going to use the U.S. military against its own people here in the United States. That's what they were most afraid of. I've had limited respect for people in the military, and what they do and all that, but I really respected these generals. I thought, it's good we have them. So that's what was disturbing me. And I'll just say, when I woke up the next day, I was not disturbed. I was ready to give my Dharma talk, and I did. So the passage I'm going to look at today, would like to look at with you today, and it's basically, this talk is going to be I'd like to look at it with you, not kind of just preach on my own about it. The name of this chapter is it's from When Things Fall Apart. It's chapter 19, and she labels it 3 Methods for Working with Chaos. And I thought, oh, that's seems applicable to our situation. So let me just read a little bit. And I have to admit, I've read through this about 3 times, and I don't have too many notes on the side. And I just don't want to sit here and read it to you. You can do that yourself. So I may break every now and then, just ask for your response. She starts by saying, I may need to sneeze here. By saying, we practice to liberate ourselves from a burden, or I'll say also unease. The burden of a narrow perspective caused by craving, aggression, ignorance, and fear. We're burdened by the people with whom we live, by ongoing daily situations. So that makes sense. We have to live with the people, all of us together here in the whole world, and right here in this country. Through practice, we realize that we don't have to obscure the joy and openness that is present in every moment of our existence. When we're able to do this, we no longer feel burdened by depression, worry, resentment, anger. There's room to relax and breathe and swim, to swim so far out that we no longer have the reference point of the shore. Now, if I was her editor, I might suggest maybe you swim so far in that we don't notice, not aware, but no longer have she said a reference point. I'm sure she thought how to say that, of the shore. Now, the shore is like, there's the shore that we live in that's painful and repressive and fearful. And in Buddhism, there's the other shore, which is not that way. It came up in our session about the Buddha mentioning having a raft to go across that shore, which we can say are, I call them the sound noble truths, sound truth, the sound truths, not the noble truths. That's from a scholar I really appreciate, who's looked at the Nikayas very carefully and has suggested different translations for different things. I'm going to digress a little bit to say, because that story came up and because we're talking about the shore here, I do believe on very rare occasions, the Buddha was a comedian. Now, that's very rare, but I've read a very good portion of the Nikayas of the, I don't know, 7,000 pages. I've read maybe 3,000. That's a lot of pages. And every now and then you've got to ask yourself, I think he's making a joke here. But you got to read a lot of pages before and then because everything's so serious, you come to something and you think, is this serious or is he making a joke? Here's one. I can't tell you too many, but here's one. He says to his disciples, I teach you to use a raft to carry yourselves to the other shore, which is these teachings. And then he says, what do you think, monks? When you get to that other shore, should you put that raft on your head and carry it around with you? Now, some people just think, oh, yeah, but I think he's being comical. It's like, do you think it would be wise to put that raft on your head and just carry it around with you wherever you go? And they say, no, I don't think so. So that's the extent of Buddha's humor. Not great, but a little bit, just a little bit. Um, and he says, no, it would not be useful, to carry that raft around on your head. Uh, and he says you should put that raft down. So that's just a little story. How do we work with a sense of burden? How do we learn to relate with what seems to stand between us and the happiness we deserve? How do we learn to relax and connect with fundamental joy? Her next sentence says, times are difficult globally. Now, this book came out in 1997. I was compelled to go back and see what political events were going on in 1997 because I don't remember any of them. And besides the O.J. Simpson case, I don't remember anything that was listed when I read these 300 events that were the most significant events that happened in 1997, maybe one or two others. One of them was there was difficulty happening between Israel and the Palestinians at that time. So I think we can easily say there are difficult times globally right now in 2025. She says, awakening is no longer a luxury or an ideal. It's becoming critical. We don't need to add more depression, more discouragement, or more anger to what's already here. It's becoming essential that we learn how to relate sanely with difficult times. Now, that is, I believe, our challenge. This is the best way that we can benefit others. The three traditional methods are relating directly with difficult circumstances as a path of awakening and joy. Oh, the first method we'll call no more struggle. The second, using poison as medicine. And the third, seeing whatever arises as enlightened wisdom. These are three ways for working with chaos, difficulties, and unwanted events in our daily lives. The first method, no more struggle, is epitomized by, she calls it the Shamatha Vipassana instruction. When we sit down to meditate, whatever arises in our mind, we look at directly. Call it thinking, and then go back to the simplicity and immediacy of the breath. Again and again, we return to pristine awareness, free from concepts.
Uh-oh.
Meditation practice is how we stop fighting with ourselves, how we stop struggling with circumstances, emotions, or moods. That's what I would say. I have thinking underlined, but it's not only thinking, it's like It's like I was experiencing. It wasn't thinking, but it was derived from thinking, but inside it becomes very emotional. So those things come up too. Now I have a theory. Now we can use our thinking mind uh, to help us. For instance, in this Shin, in the text we were discussing from Dogen, one section or in that uh, treatise is that Dogen says we need to know if we're going in the direction we want to go. And we use that, using our discriminating mind. And one of the teachers, Daigaku, said, we want to go west, but our automobile's headed toward Chicago, and that means from here, which is Hokyoji, something like that. Dogen also says the same thing in another chapter in his Shobo Genzo. We want to go to the province of, he calls it Wu, I'll just call it Wu. He doesn't, it's not that. But our cart is painted is set up with its direction toward yin. It's in when I talk about that, I say we want to go to Minneapolis, but our car is faced toward Des Moines or something like that from Hokyoji. So yes, we need to use our discriminating mind to make sure we're going where we want to go. This basic instruction is a tool that we can use to train in our practice in our lives. Whatever arises, we can look at it with non-judgmental attitude. This applies to working with unpleasantness in its myriad guises. Whatever or whoever arises, train again and again, looking at it and seeing it for what it is without calling it names, without hurling rocks, without averting your eyes. Let all those stories go. The innermost essence of mind is without bias. Things arise and things dissolve forever and ever. That is just the way it is. This is the primary method for working with painful situations, global pain, domestic pain, any pain at all. We can stop struggling with what occurs and see its true face without calling it the enemy. It's like inviting what scares us to introduce itself and hang around for a while. She uses the example of Milarepa. I don't know much about Milarepa. I know the name. As Milarepa sang to the monsters he found in his cave. He said, "It is wonderful." I don't know what his song was. She's just quoting the lyrics here. But the lyrics are, "It is wonderful you demons have come today. You must come again tomorrow. From time to time, we should converse." So I guess he's singing that song. We start by working with the monsters in our mind. Then we develop the wisdom and compassion to communicate sanely with the threats and fears of our daily life. Another teacher's she quotes is a Tibetan yogini. I guess that's a woman. I think that's what that means. Instead of a yogi, a yogini. So this was a woman, Machig Labdram, who was one who fiercely trained with this view. She said that in her tradition, they did not exorcise demons. They treated them with compassion and approach what you find repulsive. Help the ones you think you cannot help and go to places that scare you. This begins when we sit down to meditate and practice not struggling with our own minds. Well, there's two other ones, but let me just stop there. Is there anything that I'm saying right now that resonates with all of you? I just don't want to keep talking and talking and talking today. If there's no comment, I will keep talking and talking and talking. Okay, no rebuttals? Yeah, okay, great. Rushin, what do you have to say? Rushin was at the session too. So was Noah and Gage, who are Junden.
My friend Dave Bruss gave me this book when I was going through the heavy, deep grief from losing Sandy. And he had gone through that book when he'd gone through a difficult divorce. So he had run a pencil on highlighting things that were relevant to him. And I found it interesting that the things that were relevant to him weren't necessarily relevant to me, but there were other passages that were relevant to me. And the whole idea of giving up struggle was very useful to me at that time. That I just would just there the idea of kind of trying to combat that level of grief was just that's wasn't productive at all. It was just overwhelming. There was no reason to even try to fight it, but there was still this idea that I don't want this. But then the idea of just allowing it, and I thought about that this morning when the night chant we do is allow the mind to be bright and clear, or clear and bright. It's allowing the mind to be clear and bright. So during Sesshin, I remembered something that was really useful to me during that time that I hadn't thought about in a long time, which was a lyric from a Kelly Joe Phelps song about just throw the stick and let the bulldog run. Just let it happen. Just let that be. So I think that the whole book of Pema Chodron of just the Tibetans are very clear about just go with it. Just be with that. And Daigaku, one of the things he said that really stuck with me from the Sesshin was, that the Buddha became one with his doubt, so that he no longer was seeking an answer. He was just one with his doubt. So that's kind of our way. So
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rushin. Anyone else? Okay, then we'll go to the second one. The second method of working with chaos is using poison as medicine. We can use difficult situations, poison, as fuel for waking up. I don't think that's unrelated to what Rushin just said. I mean, this grief, Rushin called it grief, but it feels like poison, when I mean, it feels like it's almost destroying us. But we can use difficult situations, poison, as fuel for waking up. A little later, she'll go in that poison isn't really poison. When anything difficult arises, any kind of conflict, any notion of unworthiness, anything that feels distasteful, embarrassing, painful, instead of trying to get rid of it, we breathe it in. The three poisons our passion. This includes craving or addiction, aggression, and ignorance. Ignorance, which includes denial or the tendency to shut down and close out. So this is not a shutting down practice that we do or try to get away from the difficulties that we face in our ordinary lives, in our political environment, anywhere. So we would usually think of these poisons as something bad, something to be avoided, but that isn't the attitude here. Instead, they become seeds of compassion and openness. When suffering arises, the instruction is to let the storyline go and breathe it in. Not just the anger, resentment, or loneliness that we might be feeling, but the identical pain of others who in this very moment are also feeling rage, bitterness, or isolation. We breathe it in for everybody. This poison is not just our personal misfortune, our fault, or our blemish, our shame. It's part of the human condition. It's our kinship with all living things. The material we need in order to understand what's it like to stand in another person's place. Instead of pushing away or running from it, we breathe in and connect with it fully. We are told from childhood that something is wrong with us, with the world, and with everything that comes along. It's not perfect. It has rough edges. It has a bitter taste. It's too loud, too soft, too sharp, too wishy-washy. We cultivate a sense of trying to make things better because something is bad here. The main point, something is bad here, something is a mistake, something is a problem. The main point of these methods is to dissolve that dualistic struggle, our habitual tendency to struggle against what's happening to us or in us. These methods instruct us to move toward difficulties rather than backing away. We don't get this kind of encouragement very often. In other words, this is why we often say doing this practice that we're doing is going against the grain. It's not the usual way. And when she says we're told from childhood, and I don't think that means, our parents, well, maybe directly to do. I don't know. I've only had one set of parents, so it's hard to know how everyone else has been raised. But we, for some reason or another, because of our human condition, we do that. This comes up, and this is the first sound truth that he calls it the sound immanent reality. The sound immanent reality. It means the first sound immanent reality, which means the first noble truth in Wallace's, which means there is unease. If you're born into this world as a human being, you are going to experience unease. No way to avoid it. So it's not just the case that our parents, depending on our parents, it's just the human condition. And that basically comes from a very strong sense of a ego self, which we have to develop. We have to develop that ego sense. If we don't, something's seriously off with our psychology as a human being. So there can, and so we strive to protect it, advance it, comfort it. This is what we do as young, very young people. I mean, right from the time, we're a few months old, we start, it starts coming into play. And then there might be a time in our lives, though, when we say, wait a minute, this fighting against and trying to protect and gain things for our individual selves is just not working the way, I was trained to do. No formal training, just how things arose. So at a certain point in time, maybe we'll find maybe I don't have to fight so hard against everything to still live and be healthy and happy. So then we might take up a different way. But that's hard because it goes against the grain, the stream, as we call it. We can use everything that happens to us as a means for waking up. We can use everything that occurs, whether it's our conflicting emotions, our thoughts, or seemingly outer situation to show us where we are asleep and how we can wake up completely, utterly, without reservations. So the second method is to use poison as medicine, to use difficult situations to awaken to our genuine caring for other people who, just like us, often find themselves in pain. When the world is filled with evil, all mishaps, all difficulties should be transformed into a path of enlightenment. That's the notion engendered here. I'm not fond of the word evil, though some people are. Some people are. Some Buddhist practitioners are. For me, evil represents something unchangeable, immutable. Um, I was impressed by someone. I have to step away and get some water. I read a long, long time ago. There's a Mother Teresa and a Hitler inside each one of us. That made sense to me. The last method is the third method for working with chaos is to regard whatever arises as the manifestation of awakened energy. Traditionally, the image used, I think she's talking about her in her Tibetan tradition, the image used for regarding whatever arises as the very energy of wisdom is the charnel ground. Now, we find this in the Mindfulness Sutra that the Buddha taught. Very long section on visiting the charnel ground. It's one of the longest sections in the whole mindfulness sutta. I'll read what she says about in Tibet. In Tibet, the charnel grounds were what we call graveyards, but they weren't as pretty as our graveyards. I thought, yeah, our graveyards are well manicured with pretty, you know, memorial stones and sometimes beautiful words written on them. Sometimes not so beautiful. One thing that made me laugh was, do you remember Rodney Dangerfield, that comedian who always says, what does he say? I get no respect. That was his key. No, he had a good way of saying it. But he said on his gravestone it says, "There goes the neighborhood." So anyway, anyway, back to this. In Tibet, the charnel grounds were, okay, they weren't as pretty. The bodies were not under a nice smooth lawn with little stones, white, pretty stones carved with angels and pretty words. In Tibet, the ground was frozen. So the bodies were chopped up after people died and taken to the charnel grounds. Where, oh, yeah, where vultures would eat them. I'm sure the charnel grounds did not smell very good and were alarming to see. There were eyeballs and hairs and bones and other body parts all over the place. In a book about Tibet, I saw a photograph in which people were bringing a body to the charnel ground. There was a circle of vultures that looked to be about the size of 2-year-old children, just waiting for the body to be deposited. Yeah, I won't go. I think you get the picture, so I don't think I need to expand on it more. But the Buddha even goes into more detail. I think in Buddha's day, it wasn't uncommon at all to see a decomposing corpse, maybe just along the roadside, although they probably tried to pick it up and throw it into a special place. There wasn't, a lot of social security in India. So if you didn't have a family, take care of it, you probably just died right where you were. But he goes into more detail, and I won't go there. But you might be curious to read what he has to say. He says this is very good practice to go and sit in the charnel grounds, knowing that the fate of these bodies in the charnel ground is exactly the same as where you will be headed. Regarding what arises as awakened energy reverses our fundamental habitual pattern of trying to avoid conflict, trying to make ourselves better than we are, trying to smooth things out and pretty them up, trying to prove that pain is a mistake and would not exist in our lives if only we did all the right things. Often in our daily lives, we panic. We feel heart palpitations, stomach rumblings because we are arguing with someone, or because we had a beautiful plan and it's not going to happen. How do we deal with those demons, which are basically our hopes and fears? We're trying to learn not to split ourselves between our good side and our bad side, our pure and impure sides. Feeling wrong, guilt, shame. That's what we all have to befriend. We all have to befriend all of that. The point is, we can dissolve the sense of dualism between us and them, between this and that, between here and there, by moving toward what we find is difficult and wish to push away. These are the very practical ways to work with chaos. No struggle, poison as medicine, and regarding everything that arises as the manifestation of wisdom. First, we can train in letting the storylines go. Slow down enough to just be present. Let go of the multitude of judgments and schemes. Second, we can use every day of our lives to take a different attitude towards suffering. Instead of pushing it away, we breathe it in and wish that everyone could stop hurting, with the wish that people everywhere could experience contentment in their hearts. We can acknowledge that suffering exists, the darkness exists, the chaos in here and the chaos out there. This is basic energy. Whether we regard our situation as heaven or hell depends on us. She says the chaos in here and the chaos out there. But we all know there's really no in there or out there. We can't say it's all in here. That's not correct. We just say it's neither in here nor out there. Which means, in a certain way, we do acknowledge there is an out there and an in there, and but we say that's not it, but we also say it's not just that it's in here and in here, or we don't say it's just all out there. It's just everything. Then she says, we can cultivate a sense of humor. So that's probably a good thing to do. We can sit down and train ourselves to lighten up, to have a sense of humor, to relax. One student said to me, lower your expectations or lower your standards. Lower your standards and expectations and relax as it is. That's all I have to say. Oh, yeah, already at 10:18. So we have 12 minutes. Well, let's say 10 minutes, 2 minutes to close. So is there anything anyone has to say for 10 minutes? Up for 10, I don't say talk for 10 minutes, just we have 10 minutes to talk about things. And of course, if there's nothing more to say, we can stop now.
I just wanted to mention that I think, Dokai, you may know this, but anyway, my wife Sharon, whose Dharma name is Jampa, has practiced with him for 30 years, and the one thing that when you were talking about working with struggle was that there was a retreat in November of 2016 at the time of the outcome of the election that Jampa was at with Pema. And believe you me, they really struggled. I mean, they were all in shock going through all the things that we all were with this new information, concerns and stuff. But and they had a really hard time resettling into, it was like a 7-day retreat also. but anyway, but I guess to the I really see in Sharon the how she has really worked with these teachings, and the other aspect that more recent that Sharon has experienced some cognitive loss that was diagnosed as mild cognitive impairment. And of course, she went through that shock phase, or we did, and then, but the way that she's worked with it is really impressive, and just really rather than fighting and saying, "Oh, this shouldn't happen to me." Well, I'm sure she believe me, she's gone through all that too, but she really has learned to embrace it as a teaching and trying to learn from it. And so things like when she decided she had to give up driving, she did it with the not only protecting herself but others. But then she turned it to like, well, let's see, maybe I can find friends and acquaintances to help give me rides, and she has, and she's developed a number of nice friendships around that. So it's and so she somehow finds the way to find the bright side of it. But yeah, and a number of the book that she's written that is called "Until My Memory Fails Me" is she uses a number of Pima's short practices at the ends of the chapters, is like those just like me practices, or kind of those grocery store moments and those kinds of things. But to kind of have the practice not only as like just as part of our daily life. So anyway, I decided just share a couple of things around that.
Thank you so much. Of course, if I've said anything like off track here, Frank, you could
no.
you can correct me, because you've been
no, not at all.
Well, no, I'm just having having Sharon as your wife and her having practiced with Pema for all this time.
Wow.
I would stand corrected in anything she might say.
Oh.
But anyway, it made sense to me. Anyone else? Oh, yeah, Kyoku. Mm-hmm.
I found myself caught by the Hitler and Mother Teresa phrase that you shared with us. And I could just feel the discomfort in my body. And suddenly it just occurred to me that I just don't like being there with those moments. It's just sort of like seeing something like catch the corner of your eye or something and saying, "Oh, no, I'm not going there." And recognize that while avoiding what I don't like just seems like natural, like breathing as a human being, but that it is a barrier to the Mother Teresa, the giving and loving part, so that both things that I think I have to have, or wish I had, or wish I didn't have, end up, it's sort of like a tennis match or something. If it's not one thing, it's the other, but the whole effect is I can't really be here in my moment, or in my life to either enjoy or just meet how much I dislike something. And that, I don't know, when that isn't so much thinking, but I can feel it in my body, then it makes it actually a little bit easier to work with. But it's really it's surprising because every now and then I catch myself actually just going with it. I recently got bit by a dog, which has never happened to me. And I was just standing next to the dog, sort of going, okay, what's going on here? And all of a sudden, bam, I got bit. And I was amazed because first of all, it was a surprise. And second of all, I felt blood going down my leg. And as soon as that happened, I turned right around and I went to my car and I got in and I said, okay, Mayo, Onalaska is only 10 minutes away. And I was just amazed at just how, okay, let's get her done here. And especially since I'd never had the experience, I was rather surprised. But it was in a way partly because I just stuck with going, oh, this is happening. So it's helpful for me to be present for it because of the learning, because of the surprises. It wasn't, it wasn't fun, but it was sort of an experience. It was alive, I guess. It's a long way of saying thank you.
All right. Thank you also. I guess I'll tell hopefully a 2-minute story. I had these in my notes. Within my family, there's people who really appreciate, I mean, my extended family, people who really, really appreciate Donald Trump as a president. And I've learned from that extended family, that the same family just hated Obama. They just hated Obama. And I was not of that persuasion. Here's a little story. When I was 9 years old, I saw Richard Nixon come to Sioux City, Iowa, and give a talk. And I also saw John Kennedy come to Sioux City. I thought, oh, presidents come to Sioux City, all the time. But we have this unique little thing where we're the first primary, that happens in the nation. So all the presidential candidates come to Iowa. They want to, make a really good start. And but anyway, in during Obama's second run for the presidency, he came to a small town in Iowa where one of my relatives was, who did not like him at all. Right into the high school gymnasium, and my relative was there, and because he taught volleyball. But anyway, so this is his story, Obama's walking in, and my relative just goes like, oh God, just looks away. And then Obama was kind of headed toward my relative, and then he saw my relative make this face, scowling face, and he went this way. He changed his direction. But the point I'm saying is there's people who despise Obama as much as other people despise Trump. So it's there. it's there. So that's it. We're at the end of our time, so why don't we close up? You got any announcements, Kyoko, or anything?
Well, just the usuals.
Mhm.
There will be more talks after today. So we'll have a chance to hear Mio Habermas next week, and then Jushin the week after that. We have a number of our kind of best friend sanghas coming to hold sessions in the latter part of August. And then we have what we hope is preparation for starting things related to our new Zendo, and taking care of the land, and a sort of a more activity that we're not so necessarily used to coming up. So stay tuned. It's going to be exciting, I'm sure. Let's see, what else do I want to say? I want to say, look at the message in your box about thank you for all the support that you do give us, and please know that we need it all. So please consider continuing adding to the support that you might already be giving us, and encouraging others to do the same. And now we'll close with the four.
I'll just interrupt. The final vote to go ahead with the new Zendo will happen later today, whether we go with it or not. So we're it's looking, from my perspective, it's looking pretty good. So, but anyway, I just thought I'd bring that up. So anyway, go ahead, Kyoko.
Yeah.
Close this up.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll do our 4 vows. I think I have to turn my musician on for that. And maybe I could turn our, okay, recording off.